like the cowardly perpetrators now cornered in the building, we will punish the masterminds swiftly and indeed very painfully.
The president of Kenya promising punishment for the attackers holding hostages in a shopping mall in the capital. And that punishment could be happening as we speak. Kenyan security forces are storming the mall, hoping to end the standoff and set the hostages free. And we're just getting dramatic new pictures that capture the moment on Saturday when the attackers stormed the mall and people ran for their lives. Well, that store and other parts of the mall were crowded with people doing their weekend shopping and eating in the food court. At least 68 of these people didn't make it out alive. And the death toll may be going up right now as the Kenyan army carries out its own attack. The Red Cross now says 68 people are dead, and among that number are 2 Canadians. One has been identified as Anne-Marie Deloge. She worked in the diplomatic service for both citizenship and immigration and Canadian border services. She'd been in Kenya for 2 years. We also know now that 2 Canadians are wounded. Somalia-based Al-Shabaab says it orchestrated the strike. It's carried out previous attacks in Kenya ever since Kenya's military intervened in the conflict in Somalia. Well, it's dark in Nairobi, and it's hard to tell what's really going on at the mall. But it's clear something is happening. James Reinl is a freelance reporter in Nairobi. James joins us now. So what are you hearing about the attack on the mall by security forces at this point, James?
Well, obviously, as you can see, it's dark. It's nighttime here in Nairobi, some 35 hours after attackers initially launched their raid on the Westgate shopping mall in a upmarket area of Nairobi. It's dark and journalists are being kept away from the scene, and the security forces, the government officials, are remaining tight-lipped about the operation that's going on inside. So we're not necessarily going by what we can see, by what we can hear. And what we've heard in the last hour is another large explosion from inside the shopping mall. This follows a number of explosions that have been happening over the last few hours and the ongoing crackle of gunfire in the distance as helicopters fly overhead. The Associated Press reported from the scene. They've spoken to a Kenyan official in the area of the shopping mall, and they said that they confirmed what we thought had been going on for a long time, which is a counter-offensive by the Kenyan security forces, commandos, possibly backed by foreign, including Israeli assistance. And they say they've launched a counter-offensive, and they said that this will end tonight, that they're hoping to crack down on the remaining 10 to 15 Al-Shabaab Islamist attackers who have taken hostages in what we understand is now one remaining part of the mall, and the Kenyan security forces hope to tackle them and as I say, end this tonight.
James, the Islamic group you mentioned, Al-Shabaab, isn't known to many people here. What is it, and what does it want?
Al-Shabaab is a group that's based in Somalia. That's a neighboring country to Kenya. The country has been torn apart by 2 decades of chaos, and over the last decade, the group Al-Shabaab has tried to take control of the country and previously controlled Mogadishu, the capital, and most of the south of the lawless nation. They have been tackled over the last few years by a contingent of forces that are backed by the UN and include Ugandan forces, Burundian troops, and more recently the Kenyans joined the fight at the end of 2011, launching an attack into the south of the country and managing to wrestle territory away from Al-Shabaab. Now, that obviously didn't please Al-Shabaab, and they've vowed to wreak revenge on Kenya and its people for involving itself in a war that they say doesn't have any business being involved in. Since then, they've launched a number of attacks on mosques, on churches in the northeast of the country, and public services such as transport systems in the capital Nairobi. But this has changed significantly over the last couple of days with this massive, much more sizable attack on the shopping mall, which is bigger than anything this country has seen since 1998, when Al-Qaeda launched an attack on the US embassy, killing 200 people.
Well, James, it sounds like the next few hours could be pivotal. I know you're going to keep a close eye and ear on things for us. We appreciate this. That's James Reinl in Nairobi. Well, let's bring in the CBC's Christy Kirkup. She's in Ottawa, and she's following information that's coming out on Canadians caught up in this violence, and she joins us now. So, Christy, what do we know so far?
Well, Anne-Marie Deluge was 29 years old. She was a Canadian diplomat based in Kenya, and she is one of 2 Canadians that have been killed in this attack. We do not know the name of the second Canadian that was killed, and we are hearing from officials at the Department of Foreign Affairs that we likely won't be getting that name, that it likely will not be released. We also do know that 2 other Canadians were injured in this attack, and for Anne-Marie Deluge, we do know that her family actually lives in the east end of Ottawa. They are not speaking to media today, but they also were part of the Foreign Service, but they are now retired. Christine.
Christy, so a diplomat is killed. Tell us a bit of the reaction from Canadian government officials.
Well, we have heard from Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who put out a release yesterday. He has called this a cowardly, hateful act as well. We have heard from Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird. He spoke earlier today, and here's a bit of what he had to say.
We lost someone who was serving their country abroad, someone who was a member of our team and our embassy in Nairobi, and I can't not speak to this without once again extending our sympathies to her family and friends. I think what this does, Al-Shabaab's despicable actions do, and the number of different people from different nationalities killed, do show that the fight against terrorism is the great struggle of our generation.
Now, Christy, the union that represents diplomats, the Professional Association of Foreign Service Officers, says it is devastated by the loss of one of its own. And of course, it is extending condolences to the family. And Anne-Marie Deluge's husband was also injured in this attack, but we do know he has been released from the hospital. Christine?
All right, Christy, thanks for this. That's our Christy Kirkup in Ottawa. Well, Al-Shabaab has been tweeting quite frequently since yesterday's shooting, but Twitter has since intervened and suspended its account. Our Natasha Fatah is following the latest on social media. She joins us from the newsroom. Natasha, what are you seeing today on Twitter?
Well, Christine, earlier today, just briefly, a variation of this account, the HSM press office, which claims to represent Al-Shabaab, the terrorist group out of Somalia, was tweeting what they say is a list of people who were involved in that attack in a Kenyan mall yesterday. Now, they were sending off people's names, where they were from, and at least one of the names that they mentioned was a person linked to Canada. Now, we cannot independently verify that that account is legitimate or that any of those people that were named have anything to do with yesterday's attack, but this Twitter account or variations of it did prove useful yesterday, because they were tweeting that it was Al-Shabaab that was responsible for the attack, that they were taking responsibility for it. They said that they were in touch with the Mujahideen, their holy warriors, inside the mall, and that's how they were getting information out. Now, this account or variations of it has been suspended numerous times this year. First, in January, Twitter took it down. Another version of it popped up earlier this month. It was removed again yesterday, and again today. The account has been suspended because it was releasing those names of alleged people involved in that attack yesterday. And again, we cannot verify if any of that information is true.
Yeah, we can't verify, but what I thought was a bit fascinating reading the tweets yesterday and today, it seemed whoever was putting them out is a native English speaker, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Natasha, amid the despair, I also understand that Kenyans are also taking to social media to show their resilience.
Absolutely. Kenyans and people across the region and across the world have been tweeting. Now, this is from the Interior Ministry saying, "We thank you for staying strong, for keeping the Kenyan spirit alive with the hashtag #WeAreOne." We're seeing this a lot on Twitter today, the sort of sense of solidarity with the Kenyan community. Now, the Kenyan police tweeted, "Though we cry and weep as a nation, we shall stand as one. We will defend and protect our beloved country." So a bit of solidarity there as well. Now, this has come out. This man in the checkered shirt, if you can see him, if we can go full frame, is someone we believe to be a plainclothes police officer. And someone said, "May God bless this amazing hero." You can see him here in several different scenarios from that mall yesterday, helping people out. So quite a bit of bravery represented there. But also this person has tweeted, "In solidarity with all those affected, prayers in abundance. Proud of Kenyans for the show of extraordinary love and selflessness." Again, hashtag #WeAreOne. So a lot of people trying to be positive in the midst of what is chaotic and devastating, Christine.
All right, Natasha, thanks for the latest.
You're welcome.